So we are planning a lot of different rewilding events and projects for this year, and they all seem very exciting to me. And to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually can imagine me in my, packing my rucksack and putting things inside, and I could just start traveling today if I could.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to it, and some of the places we've already been to, so we know they're super interesting and super good.
It actually makes it even more exciting to go back, because and maybe just to let you know what we mean by our rewilding events. It sounds like super understandable for us. We know what we mean, but maybe it's not that clear. And these are the trips we make, events we hold in places where it's possible to meet horses that live wild. I mean, not wild horses, because
feral.
They are feral horses. So they live with minimal or non-human caretaking.
Management or
yes,
interventions.
Yes.
So we have a couple of these places we regularly go to, and also offer people to come with us in different courses and workshops and other events. We do have some places in Italy we go to that there are feral living horses, but we also watch wildlife in general and the coexistence.
So it's like a more like a broader view of horses as a part of biodiversity.
Yeah.
And as a part of this network of life.
Exactly. So the focus is a little bit different, but there are still. It's funny, in Italy there are feral living ponies or horses almost everywhere, and it's kind of an old traditional habit, and many people still let them out into the mountains, basically.
So it's not because they are planning to abandon them,
some do.
Okay. But as far as I know from what you said, that this is a part of the traditional management of horses in Italy.
Also, yes. So from April to September, October, many of them let them out to graze in the mountains. But some of them, then they wouldn't, for different reasons, they just leave them there, and they form these feral living bands of horses, and they are everywhere, basically. And then there are some smaller groups of native breeds that are being feral for, many hundred years. Mm-hmm. So different, but it's so far in all the nature reserves I've been, there are some feral living horses.
And I think it's not such a common knowledge. And as I observe that when people learn that they're actually, many people say wild horses, but okay, there are wild living horses out there in Europe. Many people are surprised, and they usually connect the wild horse with a Mustang in America, or the horses in Mongolia and steppes. And when you learn that in such a civilized place like Italy there are wild living horses, it's a shock to many people, I think.
And I know, and I when I started visiting these different places, I also thought there were very much fewer of them, and I'm constantly learning about new places. So I've just heard about in Hungary they actually have a group of Przewalski horses living, which is wow, I had no idea.
Lucky we are going to Hungary next month.
Yes. What a coincidence. Yeah, it's often how it starts with us, I think. We hear about something that we want to do ourselves, and we go there and explore it, and then we're like, oh, this is so good, we need to share it with other people.
And I was thinking about, I like to remind myself about the kind of reasons why we do it, because one of the very first reasons for us, I think, is to our own excitement and our own joy and curiosity and our passion for this. This is like really the driving force.
Yeah.
But I also see these other forces there that when we last week we actually discussed who we want to invite to these events, who we want to take, like take with us. And we thought about people who work with horses on different levels, the horse behaviorists, the owners, riders, trainers, like all different like profiles of people engaged in horse-human interactions out there. And there is so few of actual like that, so few of us do go and make the supervision of our relationship with horses, with actually feral horses who are present in the world. They are not gone.
No.
And
no. You bring up something really important to me, is like how we see horses. And that if you only see horses in domestic settings, in stables and boxes and small pastures, and you think that's how horses are supposed to live, and this is how horses show up and how much caretaking they need. And then you go out and see them in these places, and it's so obvious that they're so fully competent, so fully like just fully complete beings, fully competent of taking care of themselves and their own needs and each other, and coexisting in a lot of different environments with wildlife and in mountains, in forests, in deserts, everywhere. And then we are like these pampering humans who needs to bubble wrap them and have them in little,
And actually that we, I also think that this is such an educational value in it, because we tend to build like old paradigms based on the domesticated horse, like horse behaviorists or trainers who develop their schools of, let's say, training, or their methodologies of approaching a horse based on observations of horses in the very restricted environments. And going out there to the wild and meeting horses out there could potentially, I'm sure it could, like, really add to the content they produce, to the learning they give out to the world, to other people, to the horse culture out there.
Because when you see the capacity of the horse in these places, it's like we are training them to do something that is so kind of almost like, I don't know how to express it, but below them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then they're capable of all this, and we're turning them into something that is our image of what this should serve us with. And it's
very crippling image very often, don't you think?
Sorry?
Like it's a crippling image we have.
Yeah, very crippling, very invalidating, very like, putting them very unequally to us of being this, being that's so incapable and need us so much to do things.
Yeah.
And once I started to go out and see these horses, my whole picture of horses changed. Like the first time I met more feral living horses was in the Netherlands almost 10 years ago. I saw a group of Konigs. And then I went to Mongolia soon after, and I met these Przewalski horses in Mongolia. And I also met because Mongolian people keep their horses very feral living, and meeting all these huge herds, knowing that they basically take care of themselves, but still are in some relationship with humans. Mm-hmm. My whole picture of horses changed. And forever I'm grateful that I went to these places. But also, when I now talk to people who haven't been out and seen this, there is this gap of you can't really describe it. Or
you can't feed somebody with this experience without taking this person to experience on their own.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I think that very often, like the feral living horse, the wild living horse, horses living in the wild, all the narrative about them is present only in terms of research. For example, that there is a researcher observing these horses somewhere, and then just sharing the knowledge, sharing the observations and research like effect with the public, let's say, with the other people from the horse world. And then these people process the findings and use them in their own teachings, let's say. And it's like secondhand experience, and it's actually just
Yeah,
mentalizing all this, while actually this is, I think, a full body experience, which
it
is,
is. It is.
it can be scientific, but it's actually very
It's very different.
different. Yes, it has
And,
this
and
side to it.
actually, I think what the words that pops up for me is objectifying. Like the research is all often objectifying the study object. Like they're looking at the horse
Yeah.
as, you know, this, trying to be very, having objective glasses on, and it becomes like numbers and behaviors, and you gather this information in a very like structured way and present it as like facts, as you say. But being
Very
there,
distant,
seeing
very
them,
distant from your like
very,
life.
yes, and very, yeah, and from you as a subject, the
Yes.
horses being subjects and you being a subject.
You're not a part of this.
You're not a
You
part of
can't.
it. No, it's very much stuff between you and what you see. And when you go out and be there in their environment and strip yourself of all this, the experience is so different.
I have this picture in my head, like when many people mention like Lucy Ree's Horses in Company book. Like, this book means so much to me. It's wow, it's a groundbreaking publication. I love it. I hear such opinions. Like, I've read it, yes, it's on my bookshelf. And I see myself like taking this book from the shelf, putting into your backpack and taking this person by the hand and think,
Yes.
come on, let's go. I will show you this, you know.
Yes.
And you can be there. It's not, it's not like flying to the moon. It's out there.
No, it's actually very doable.
Yeah.
And I would so love if it would be part of more horse people's lives.
Like a part of curriculum that in the culture, because there are different things you need to experience as a horse person. And people like mention, I don't know, I would love to have this gallop on the beach, or I know, see the horses born. You know, there are many things like milestones, but it rarely appears in these narratives that I want to meet horses on their own in the wild. It somehow didn't get into this mainstream talk about horses.
It is a risk though, because when you do it, your perception of horses will change, and when you go back, you will see your horses differently.
Yeah.
And that kind of asks you to do some other decisions. I think I'm not saying like people are like, oh, but then you want us to let all the horses out and roam freely, and it's not about that.
It is not, and actually we have a living proof now of it, because I will share a happy news that
yes, do that.
there is a one feral filly born in the woods in Popielno,
Little conic.
a little conic, 8 months old, who will be arriving in the coming days or weeks to my place. So there is this kind of reverse movement. I haven't let my horses out, but actually I'm taking a conic from a wild living family of horses. I'm taking her to my family, which is not my egoistic, let's say, wish to catch myself a wild horse, but there, in all the, I guess, I'm not sure, but in many feral living horses, there is some minimal human intervention, some management. I think it is kind of necessary, even.
Almost all that I know of,
Yeah,
are regulated somehow.
It is sad somehow, but I think I see a practical side of it, that this world cannot contain. I mean, there are no. I think there are some restrictions to how wildlife is, can live with us.
I think the only places where we don't control them are areas we don't want to go into. Like there is a group of Persevalskis living close to Chernobyl, for example.
Yes, and nobody manages them.
No, because nature takes over again, and species find their way in there. But I don't think I know any. There are, of course, groups that nobody.
We don't know about them. Simply.
No.
And the part, like in Popielno, where there is this, it's a it's a breeding station, and one of the breeding programs is the program which happens like that the horses tend for themselves in the woods, and but it has some kind of regulations regarding the breeding standards, and not all the horses can be kept like for the whole lives in the forest.
No,
And
they are born there, and then there is a selection.
Yeah.
As you said, something about the breeding standards sometimes, or the numbers of horses born, or
like, for example, incestuous mating, it's being regulated, and the horses born from such mating are removed from the herd, from the family, from the group. Yes, not to, well, yes.
So they move out of from the forest. They're captured once a year. These ones are removed from the herd and moved to the stables at the research station, basically. Yeah.
And that's how I am getting
So
one.
So Hedviga is one of these that
Yes.
were removed from the forest.
And we met Hedviga, that's her name. We met her in September.
Yeah.
When she was just 2 months old. So it's like we could observe her and her family, her mother, and she caught my eye, she caught my attention then. And we observed her for like few days in a row, like moving with her family, great distances. We saw this herd visiting a village and the outskirts of the forest. Remember this when we observed Namur's herd going there?
Yes.
And yes, for me, it's a very thrilling kind of event in my life to be bringing a part of this wildness to my civilized like life.
And you still keep your horses very, like, they have open spaces, and they're not stabled individually or anything, or and you learn a lot constantly about horses and horse behaviors and dynamics and communication and all of this. And so for me, when I heard that you were bringing her to your place, I was thinking, yeah, if she needs to leave the forest, she will end up in the best place she can. And it's, of course, part of my heart is like, oh, she needs to be in the forest. But that's not our decision to make, or they have protocols in place in this breeding and research station.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what happens when humans start to manage
nature.
And wildlife. And we can argue if it's right or wrong, or what we believe in, or something like that, but she's here and she needs somewhere to live.
Yeah.
And you're taking her to your place.
Yeah. So that's an important thing. I'm very curious what's gonna be how this story will unfold, and of course
I hope you will share a lot about your journey.
I will share some things I already asked. I'm in contact with Professor Marta Siemieniuk, who's the head of the breeding program in Popielno, and I know how she's faring, how the filly is faring, like now on a daily basis in the station, and she's very curious and cooperative. I just asked them not to do any hoof work yet for her, or any more interventions if it's possible,
or training
or something. Yes, so they are not, and so she told me she will inform the filly that she's
going to you.
Bonded now, like to me. So
and you're going back to Popielno in March?
Yes, in the last day of March, the first weeks of April. So if there's anybody from Poland watching us now, you can still join me.
Or somewhere else.
Or somewhere else, yes. So there is this event. I'm like organizing and facilitating 3 days with the feral living conics in Masurian Lake District. We are tracking the horses, observing their life in the forest. This will be especially interesting time because this is the beginning of birth season. The falling will happen, and
we were there in May last year, early
yes.
May, and that's so beautiful seeing this, newborn and
Baby.
heavy pregnant mares.
Yes. So it starts March, April, as Professor Semeniuk told me. She also said that there is an interesting situation of in one group that there are 2 young stallions moving with this group, and probably the foaling season will be a kind of situation in which they will have to decide who will be mating with the mares.
Yes.
And there will be very dynamic situation at that time. So
yeah, they might be expulsed from the group.
Yeah.
That was what happened last summer. There were
yes.
some stallions then starting to move on their own and having a little tiny bachelor group.
So now there is Turbach, the young stallion, with his group, and Lidit, another young. They are the same age. He joined him and hasn't been expelled yet. But Marta, the professor, she believes that the foaling, and the horse and the mare is going into how do you call it in English?
Heat?
Yes, going to heat that will instigate some kind of solutions that need to be taken.
Which is totally natural. Like this is how it goes.
So this rewilding event can be really exciting time to be there and somewhere in the bushes with your binoculars or something. So
and your camera.
Yeah.
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 And then we will go back
in September.
I will join you in September, late September. Yeah. And then the foals are a little bit older and very playful usually and very curious.
Yeah, curious.
Yeah, we were there this September too. And it was such a beautiful time to just see them and be there.
It's one of my most treasured memories, like being there in the sunny day in the meadow and just in the sun and the horses sleeping, resting, and us sleeping, resting somewhere there. Observing
all the beautiful communication that arose between the humans and the horses, and how that unfolded, and the reflections we were doing, and observations we could do, social dynamics of the herds and compared to us, and coexistence, and also it sounds like it's always very beautiful, but we discuss the problems as well. Like they live in a park, it's a huge nature reserve. I think it's
1,600 hectares.
Yeah, so it's really big. But there are still people moving around there, bicycling and hiking and doing things. So there are some stuff happening between horses and humans, potentially problematic, and we talk about that too. But I can't highly enough, recommend people just tiny bit interested in horses to come out and see them in this kind of places, and really think and reflect about what we see and what happens in us. And we're not only going to Poland because we have these events in UK, and we have them in Italy, and we have them in Latvia, and we have them even possibly in France this year. So lots of exciting things to see and be part of.
If you want to be updated, or maybe not to miss our announcements about the rewilding events, it's a good idea to join our newsletter. And
yes, and the new one will just soon come out. So
yes,
let us know if you want to be on the list. And we have the rewilding group you can be part of on Facebook, where we discuss and share a lot. And then we have the book club, the online book club you can join, or introduction book club, discussion club kind of.
It's a very special
concept.
club.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very special club. But we discuss all of this about the horse and the human, the relationship, the coexistence, the concept. What is rewilding? Rewilding yourself, rewilding your horse, rewilding the environment that the horses are in or we are in, and all of this.
And I think that I was actually thinking about it today morning, that what qualities I assign, what qualities I think of when I think about rewilding, what kind of emotion it is for me, like in the sense of emotional life. And I don't know what you think about it, Katarina, but my line of thinking was that it's actually a kind of counter emotion to the climate change and anxiety that I'm experiencing, to this all the fears about nature disappearing, are being destroyed, being used, and just and us humans being the perpetrators here, and the being coming in contact with the wild, or with the feral, with the untamed parts of nature, it just offers so much relief for me, actually.
I'm glad you bring it up. Yes, it really helps people to reconnect with both themselves and feeling a sense of belonging and have faith and that we actually are part of something. And I think one thing that people gain from joining us in these adventures or courses and things is this more deepened sense of being part of and therefore caring for and making other kinds of decisions then.
And choices. It's not like
Choices, yes.
it doesn't leave you in this helpless, overwhelmed position.
No, you're not longer an observer to something that seems to going in the wrong direction.
Yes.
You become part of something and then it feels very different, I think.
Yeah.
So that's actually a huge point, just for anyone to join us. You don't even have to be specific. We have people who are not being really horsey coming with us, but just liking nature. And they also have had this, deep experience of feeling connected. So
I think all the people who like identify themselves as kind of nature lovers, or people whose heart beats faster when they see any type of wildlife, or they care about the earth as a living organism.
yeah.
People interested in biodiversity and protecting nature and conservation activities. This might be a path that will speak to you in many, many ways.
Yeah, I think so. And therefore, I think you and I chatting about this now is when people ask, what is this rewilding thing that you are doing? And I'm like, yeah, it has a lot of different aspects to it. Yeah, you can come and just learn about horse behavior because you have the opportunity to see them in these natural settings. But there is so much more to it, and it becomes this life-changing event almost.
Yes.
I'm sounding like I'm trying to sell something like, promise a lot. But
It's true.
all the feedback we've gotten so far really speaks about this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm sure this is like a very much in line what we do in MiMer in terms of experiential learning.
yes, it
Yes.
is. Yeah.
That's why it's life-changing, because this is experience that is education, that is life, and that
Yes.
you need to process somehow. And whatever reflections you come up with afterwards, they will be meaningful, they will be important, vital, even in especially these days, especially in this moment of like world history.
I think that's like potentially changing your mindset and your perception about not only horses or even nature, but everything, because this is what happens when you change perception. You see everything differently, not
And-
only the horses.
Yeah. And this is something you can actually do if you feel helpless, if you feel like what's going on in the world is overwhelming, scary, and just big. I think stepping into nature and meeting it like first hand, not through the screen, not through books, just especially meeting a horse, not a bear, not a deer, not a moose.
No, but
a horse.
actually meeting, I'm sorry interrupting you, because my brain is like, actually meeting someone who is potentially as domesticated as yourself.
Yes, that's what I
Seeing
mean.
how
Yes.
well they do out there.
Yes, yes, that's why it's so special that it's a horse, which is like so give you an example. When I'm looking, sometimes I'm searching for, let's say, used clothes with horses and whatever, and what pops from the internet is like horses in bridles, in special blankets, like, and you know. And when I want to see like a horse, it's so hard to find. And this construct, it's out there living on its own without the bridal blanket and everything. So
it sounds like it speaks to you in the same way as to me, because it's something inside that comes alive, and it's like really like the rhythm of something, and I feel a deep connection when we go to these places, to myself and to, I don't know, life, earth.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yay!
Yay! Passionate people talking about their passions. Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that we've left so much passion and energy
Yes.
that maybe it's enough. If you haven't had your coffee yet, then just watch this live and this will feed you with some.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Katarina. And if anybody is watching us, watched us, or will watch us, just thank you.
Reach out and ask about what we haven't put all our events out for this year, and we're working hard on doing that. But we're happy to share dates and stuff with you.
And if you liked what you heard here, you can share this post to your media outlets and help us spread the ideas.
Thank you.
Bye.